So this patient presented to us after a fall at home. He's 75-year-old male. He is a known case of diabetes mellitus and hypertension. And that was the EP and lateral X-ray, which you can see on the screen. And the obviously we have these X-rays available, but the question which many would ask, do we need any further imaging? Probably if somebody wants to do CT scan, that's fine with them. If they want to further evaluate the geometry of the fracture, which might help them in their planning. But for me, it was sufficient. This X-ray was sufficient. So based on these imaging, so next questions come. So what would be your diagnosis, which to me is a intertrochanteric fracture, comminuted. And how the next obvious question is that how would you classify this fracture? And I would use a classification of proximal femur fractures in my practice, where the proximal femur fractures in per trochanteric, they are divided into three types. Type A3, 3-1, A1 is simple per trochanteric fracture, A1, A2, 3-1, A2 is multifragmentary per trochanteric fracture with incompetent lateral walls. And then the third type is reverse obliquity trochanteric fractures. So these types are further subdivided. Basically, A2 type is further subdivided into two types. Type A2.2, where there is a single intermediate fragment, and then there is a type A2.3, where there are more than two intermediate fragments. Similarly, the type A3 is further divided into three types, but basically we are looking at a reverse obliquity fractures. So what is the role of this classification? Based on this classification, we need to define whether it's a stable configuration or it's a unstable configuration, because that has significant impact on how we are going to manage this kind of fracture. Because unstable fracture, they tend to collapse into varus, or the shaft will displace medially in case of reverse obliquity fractures. So the next obvious question is whether can we treat such fractures non-operatively? Probably not in today's time when we have expertise and implant available. So the non-operative treatment has very limited role in today's time. So most of these fractures we tend to treat operatively, and we need to define our goals, that what we want to achieve when we are going for a surgical treatment. We want to achieve reduction, and we want to achieve internal fixation, and by internal fixation we want to achieve a neck shaft axial alignment and correct translation. And the consequent benefit of achieving a good reduction and a stable internal fixation is that we can or mobilize this patient quickly. So based on these discussions, the surgeon should focus on achievement of a good reduction, and then selection of a proper implant, and then application of that implant to achieve stability. So what is an acceptable reduction in such fractures where there are multiple fragments? We should not accept any residual varus. It's important to restore neck shaft angle, which is either equal or little more than the opposite side. In reduction, we should have a medial positive buttress reduction and as well as interior positive buttress reduction. There should not be any shortening or rotation. I will just expand on these points. So what do we mean by medial positive reduction? If you look at these three X-rays, the first is a negative reduction, where the proximal fragment has sort of gone inside the shaft. So means the shaft is lying medial to the proximal fragment. The next is that is a negative reduction, and then is a neutral reduction when both the calcar, they are in alignment with the medial cortex of the shaft. And then there is a positive reduction where the beak of the proximal fragment lies medial to the shaft of the femur. So we should either aim for a neutral reduction or a positive reduction. Similarly, in case in a lateral view, the ideal would be an interior positive reduction, where the cortex of the proximal fragment is anterior to the cortex of the shafts, or a neuter reduction where both are aligned. We should not try to accept a negative reduction where the cortex of the proximal fragment is posterior to the cortex of the shaft of the femur. And then it comes to the implant selection. There are various implants available like DHS, DCS, proximal femoral plating, and cephalomedullary nailing. For stable configuration, we can use any implant. But in such a fracture which is unstable, which is comminuted, and we classify that as an unstable fracture. So the general consensus is that in an unstable fracture configuration, probably the cephalomedullary nailing is the implant of choice. And these are the various parameters which make this fracture an unstable fracture. So there are other advantages of intramedullary fixation over DHS. It's a load sharing device. It provides intramedullary buttress. So it resists excessive fracture collapse and medialization, and nail more closely located to the axis of the weight bearing than DHS. So there is a better load transmission and less chances of failure. And then once we have decided that we are going to nail this fracture, then we have to decide whether we are going to use a short or a long nail, whether we are going to use a lag screw or a helical blade. And we also look at the importance of tip apex distance while you are using even nail. So what are the advantages of short nail? It's easier to use. You have a jig through which you can distal lock it, and operative time is probably less. But it has many disadvantages. There is a low sort of stress riser in the middle of the shaft, especially in osteoporotic bone. So there are slightly, it is suggested that there are high risk of periprosthetic fracture. Long nail has few advantages over the short nail. It provides protection of the entire femoral shaft. It's ideal when there is associated diaphyseal fracture, but there are certain disadvantages of this nail as well. It takes a longer time to insert this nail. There is slightly increased blood loss. You have to do freehand distal locking, and there is possible mismatch to both the femurs, especially in elderly because patients. But if you look at the literature, there is no difference as far as the functional outcome is concerned if you are able to use a short nail or a long nail. And there is also not much of a difference in peri-implant fracture or lag screw cutout. So based on this discussion, we decided to go ahead with a long cephalomedullary nail using two proximal screws, and that you can see that we were able to achieve adequate reduction and then fixation. So in spite of everything, there are always risks for complications. Screw cutout is still a problem, and even intramedullary devices, they are susceptible to cutout if the tip apex distance is more than 25 millimeter, and we should try to achieve a tip apex distance of less than 25 millimeter. But I will show later on that even the too short a distance is also not good for the patient. And this is one of the biomechanical studies published where they have looked at the various configuration of the placement of the lag screw in a cephalomedullary nail, and they have concluded that the inferior lag screw position produced the highest axial and torsional stiffness. Anterior and posterior lag screw produced the lowest stiffness and low to failure. So the preferred placement of screw, that it should be slightly inferior on the anterior posterior radiographs and center placement on the lateral radiographs. And then another question sometimes rise, like whether we should use lag screw or we should use a helical blade, especially in a patient where there is a lot of osteoporosis. There are certain disadvantages of lag screw. It doesn't. There are chances of head rotation during insertion. It provides poor rotational control, and there is also a lot of significant bone loss. We have to ream to place this lag screw. Whereas in case of helical blade, there is a better anchorage because we don't take out any bone, we don't ream it, we just compact the trabecular bone. But this study published in 2014 compared the outcome using either a lag screw or a helical blade, and they didn't find any difference in the, not much of a difference as far as the cutout is concerned or other complication and postoperative function, whether we use a lag screw or a helical blade. But another complication which, as I previously mentioned, that if our TAD is too less, like if it is 25 is the ideal, but if it's too less, especially in a helical, where we have used helical blade, then there are chances of a medial cutout of a helical blade. So we should also be aware of that while we are trying to achieve a TAD which is less than 25. We should not keep it too small also. And then there are certain newer implants to address such complex fractures. We can use dual integrated cephalocervical lag screw, which allows linear controlled intraoperative compression with improved rotation stability. Or we can use cement augmentation, obviously, which will further strengthen our fixation. So the tips as far as treating these complex intertrochanteric fractures are concerned, we should avoid fracture distraction.
Sudhir
We
bhai,
should
do you
all.
have, sorry to interrupt, do you have any follow-up of this case that you've shown? Like
We
further?
do have actually it has united, but I didn't put that X-ray
Okay.
deliberately.
Okay.
So, but that there was no failure on that. It does
Okay.
actually
Okay.
has united. So always lock the nail distally. Use the tip of the trochanter and the center of the head to avoid varus. Do not use hammer to seat the nail, and start slightly medial to the tip of the greater trochanter. Beware of the anterior bow of the femoral shaft, because if especially in elderly, the bow gradually bone remodel, and there is always slightly higher bow than the younger patient. So we should be aware of that, and we should use implant take into consideration the bow of the femoral shaft. And if there is no wall, lateral wall, we should not use any DHS. And as I told you, we should try to achieve adequate TAD distance. So remember, always achieve a good reduction with whatever mean you are comfortable, either by using lever or K-wires or steam pin, whatever, as a joystick, whatever. But it's very important to achieve reduction before you start nailing it, because nail is not a reduction tool. Thank you.